Okay. I just got done recording this, guys, as you can see by the time right there. Now then, this is gonna be. I'm gonna have to remember to. Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna put this into the video editor first. Okay. Now, I just got done recording this part, and I just wanted to ask a question. People have asked me to do Sacred Treasure Rita, and I will be doing that. But to do that, I'm going to be switching around two events that are important in the timeline. I'm gonna switch around the essentially I'm gonna switch around a bit of things. So I'm gonna bring in Merlin, and her quirk is basically gonna be infinite upgrade. And I'm also gonna bring in the Ten Commandments, and I was gonna plan on bringing in all the sins, but they're too OP, especially if I bring in Escanor. So I'm just gonna bring in Merlin and the Ten Commandments. Now, why is Merlin being brought in? Her quirk is gonna become upgrade, but it's gonna be upgraded so much. Anything she touches, she can actually upgrade. So she can just upgrade it to the point where people can think it's basically magic. Now, she is going to be important later on. Please just remember that. Also, people have asked if Deku can have the golden armor. I will be doing that also. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And cue me saying hello. Sorry guys, one more thing. Stick around till the end of the video, because I have a bit of a special challenge for people who've been around for a long time. And it's going to be pretty fun. Alrighty, hello everybody, this is Kira's show here. And I just responded to some comments. So I am not going to be stopping my recording to respond to them, but I will respond to them. Now, let us start off with everyone talking about the sports festival in class. Everyone is talking, and people would actually look to Deku. Now, while they're looking at him, as I was explaining that, the sports festival is essentially going to be how agencies spot you and see if you're going to be a good hero. Now, essentially they're going to be given 2 weeks off because of the USJ incident, and they are going to be doing the sports festival when they come back. Now, after that happened, everyone would be dismissed, and Deku would actually be the first one at the door. As soon as he opens it, he would be met with Shinsho, Monoma, and let's say Tetsu. Now these three are standing in front of them, and Deku would just tell them to move. As they would just look at Deku, and they're seeing that he's the biggest guy in 1A. So he's got to have a strong quirk. Which is whenever Shinsho would say that he's not going to move. In fact, he has something he needs to tell them. Just because they're stronger doesn't mean anything. Now, he wants these two here, we've all been talking and we want to challenge you. We want to see just how strong you actually are. We have a bit of a proposition. Fight us or give up your spot in 1A. Deku would immediately just start laughing, saying that I disagree. I will fight you, but I will not be using my hands. Which would actually piss off Tetsu. Now, after that, Deku would immediately just say that he said he will fight him. He never said how. Now, as soon as this happens, all three of these people would actually go out, or Tetsu and Monoma would actually go out, and hang on, I know what character this is. I need to find them real quick. Okay, one thing people kind of overlook in Class 1B, this guy. Niren Genki. Niren Genkai. I'm just going to call him Shota. Hang on. Now, for those of you confused at what his quirk does, it's essentially a version of full counter. He can redirect any physical attack back at his opponents up to about 7 times as strong. I believe that's how it works. I believe it's physical. If not, I'm changing the timeline more, changing that it is. Because I know that his quirk has something to do with physical abilities being reflected back at someone. Now, this kid would actually join in, saying that he is actually going to participate because he wants to prove he can be a hero. Deku would just look at him saying, admirable but faultable. As Tetsu, Monoma, and this guy, they would actually put their hands up against Deku. Now Deku, he's already in this is his base form, basically. So he would actually just turn up the stakes by growing into this form. Now as soon as he does that, people are shocked, and this is when Monoma would immediately rush Deku. Now, as soon as that happens, Deku would have just let Monoma try doing whatever he wants, and Tetsu just throwing punches at Deku. Now, Tetsu's actually throwing punches directly into Deku's ribs, which Deku's just standing there looking down at him do, with his arms crossed. Monoma would immediately go to grab Deku. He would do so, and he would actually jump backwards. And his body would immediately start growing in muscle, but as soon as that happens, his arms would immediately just catch on fire. Now, he's actually confused, screaming what's happening, as Deku would say that, you aren't worthy of using my quirk. So, go down. As he would immediately just put his hand up, creating a small cruel sun, throwing it directly into Monoma. Now, this cruel sun was actually blue. And if you guys are wondering, Deku is actually using his stockpiled nighttime power, which essentially makes his fire or his flames a light blue color. So he's actually using no power against these guys. As people would have been surprised to see that, Deku would immediately look back down to Tetsu, asking if he's having fun there. Which Tetsu would say that he's just getting warmed up, and Deku would say, admirable. Well, he wouldn't say admirable, he'd just say, oh, how adorable. He thinks he can stand against me. As he would immediately bring his leg up and just knee Tetsu in the face, sending him flying to the edge of UA. Not flying to the edge. Let's say he kicked him through a tree. He kicked him through a couple trees, actually, knocking him out. And Deku was looking around, and he just would look at this guy still standing on the battlefield. Which is whenever Deku would immediately walk over, and this guy just puts his hand up, saying that he can fight him, just throw him a punch at him. Deku would say, alright, as he would actually just bring out his hand, and he actually just he would actually go for like a simple small backhand. As soon as he would have done that, this guy's hand would have touched Deku, and as soon as that happens, it actually makes Deku's hand fly forward, back away from him, which actually confuses Deku. As he would say, impressive. Now, he would immediately just actually go for a small punch, so like a 1-inch punch, and as soon as he does this, he finds that that actually hurt him a little bit. He would say that that's impressive, his hand tingles. As he would immediately say that it's time to end this then. And he would actually just smash him into the ground with a headbutt. Which actually left Deku's head somewhat not injured, because he's Escanor, basically. He would have left Deku's head somewhat hurt. Or he would have left a scratch, at least. Which Deku would actually just wipe his forehead seeing that. Being impressed that that is the first time besides the Nomu, anyone has been able to actually make him feel something. Now, he would then immediately just walk off campus, as they were told that they were done for the day. Which is whenever Kendo, she would actually try to follow Deku, saying that that was pretty good, and she might actually be able to learn something from him, since his quirk and her quirk are a bit similar, what they have to do with augmenting your physical body. Now, after this, Kendo would actually catch up, and she would have actually lost Deku in a crowd. Which is whenever she would start asking around, and people would just say that the man she's describing is in that gym over there. She would say that he's not a man, he's in UA. And Deku would immediately just be found bench pressing at least 800 pounds, if not 1,000 pounds. Which everyone in the gym is staring at Deku, because he's just doing this as a warm-up, because he just walked in. Now, Kendo is actually surprised, and she would actually walk up to Deku asking her if he can train her, or help her get stronger. Deku would immediately look at her asking, "Why should I train you?" She would say that you're the strongest person she knows. That's gotta be boring. So, you seek to make yourself better, why not help me better myself? It might be interesting for you. You might learn some new things yourself. Deku's not stupid, so he would actually say yes to this proposal, thinking that yes, he knows what she's trying to do, but she's also correct in one thing. No one is a master at their own quirk. There are no guides written for your quirk. You have to learn a crash course test throughout your entire life. By the end of it, you can write a book, you can write a notebook, a novel, or a journal, and someone with a similar quirk can use those ideas and everything you've learned to actually their best with their quirk. Now, after that, Deku would immediately tell her that if he's going to train her, he's going to help her train her quirk. Now, after this, he would actually ask her to show him what her quirk is, as she would immediately make her hands bigger, actually somewhat stumbling forward when she does so. Deku would have immediately noticed this and tell her to fix her footing, do all this, proper forms, all that, and she would immediately inflate her hand again, which is whenever she realizes that she's actually using a lot of the muscles in her body to actually hold up her hand. Deku would train her throughout the entire 2 weeks, and she's actually more effective at using her hands. Because now whenever she goes to throw a punch, as soon as she gets her hand forward past her body, she can immediately inflate it using the entire force to just knock someone back. Now, she would have actually been surprised, and Deku was barely even training during this 2-week period. He's mainly focusing on her and helping her build up a bit more physical power. Now, during this time, someone is watching in the backgrounds, taking notes on Deku. But Deku doesn't notice this. Now, after this is whenever Deku, he would tell her that they're going to be practicing this for the next 2 weeks, as Bakugo is actually working out at a different gym across 3 to 4 blocks away. I feel like there'd be a lot more gyms in the future if everyone had superpowers. Now, after this is whenever Deku, or no, not Deku, Bakugo is actually deadlifting weights and doing all this, and he's actually been able to get up to around, if not nearby, 1,000 pounds at max, at about 20% of one for all, which is basically 35%. If I did, okay, I just did that math at the top of my head. If it's correct, I think that's correct. So it's 35% in canon and 20% in this timeline. If that's inconsistent, just know I do not know a lot of fractions besides basic. Well, not basic. Well, yeah, somewhat, I guess. I don't do math or take time to do math in my head. I just immediately think about it, and my mind can come to a number. It's close, but not always accurate. Now, Bakugo's actually built himself up to about, let's say he's 70% in canon, but at least 50 to 55% in this timeline. So he's actually about 75%. So he's actually already at All Might level. Now, as this is happening, everyone else is training and they're preparing, and let us begin with the sports festival. Deku is told that he needs to come up and give a speech, because he scored the most points, and he is actually the smartest person, so he was the best one there. Deku would have immediately just walked on the stage, looking around, and he would have just said that if anyone here is winning today, it is going to be me. Now, before you all get mad, just know this. I have the power to back up everything I say. And those who don't believe me can all fight me right now. As everyone in Class 1A is in shock, staring at Deku. He would then walk down, and people are actually realizing that Deku just painted a target on their back. Deku would just look at Ida as Ida is trying to scream at him and actually tell him that that was stupid, irresponsible. Deku would immediately throw a glance at Ida as Ida would actually just somewhat hesitate to say something, saying that they already had a target painted on their back. If anything, I just painted it on myself. As he would explain, everyone here wants to get into the hero course, so they're going to be targeting students from 1A. Think about that, Ida. As Ida's now thinking about it, he's realizing that Deku isn't cocky, he's prideful. He's a master tactician, and he seems to be a master at combat, because all he ever has to do is just do what All Might does. So he's realizing that he's just exactly what he sounds like. If not, he's even better and smarter and stronger than what he is. Which actually frightens Ida, because that means his potential is basically endless. Now, the race... Oh no, let's actually cut to this. This is whenever... Okay, let's cut back to in the locker rooms, because I really wanted to do this part. Ida is talking, and he's asking Deku... Or not Ida. This is whenever Todoroki would actually ask Deku, and he'd actually pull Baku alongside with him. He's asking them, what is their deal? Deku would say, what does he mean? And he would say that something is clearly wrong here. You have 3 quirks. 1 explosion quirk, and 2 like All Might. And you are even more particular, or unpredictable. Not only is your quirk like All Might, it's also like Endeavor's. What is the deal with that? Are you some freak grown in a lab? Deku would immediately look down at Todoroki, saying that he is no freak. In fact, he is the one who will win. You think you can beat me? Just try, but just know. As Deku would have immediately just done... This is what Todoroki would see for a split second, as Deku would immediately just look back down, smile at him, saying that if he thinks he's gonna win, use both sides. As Deku would immediately just go back up, and he'd just walk away. Now, he's actually taller than Endeavor whenever he did this. And going to this size actually frightened Todoroki, as him and Bakugo are actually left standing there, both of them clearly shaking, which would immediately make Todoroki walk away along with Bakugo. Basically, it allowed Deku to shift the conversation away from All Might. So Todoroki still doesn't have an answer to that. But he is too busy trying not to piss himself to figure that out. Back to the race. This is whenever, as soon as the race starts, a lot of Class 1B would immediately try and target Deku, as soon as that happens, Todoroki would have just froze the entire area. Now, Deku would have actually just burned through the ice in an instant with his quirk, actually somewhat starting to form cracks in the stadium. Now, when that happened, Deku immediately just jumped off, and he would have done 3 to 2 leaps, actually in his super buff form. So somewhat into this form, as he would have immediately shrunk down back into this one, whenever he gets there. Deku would immediately look at the timer as it would say 2.8. Deku would say that, so about my average time. Now then, people are in shock as Bakugo would come in second at about 28, not 28, let's say 15 to 13 seconds next. Which surprises them a bit more as Todoroki would come in at about, I don't even know how long it took him to come in. Todoroki would be a solid third. Kendo would be fourth at least, I want to say. Because I want to say, since Deku actually told her to work on this, she would have actually been able to work on a bit more cardio, which is one thing Deku desperately told her to do. Because cardio is a very good burning, it's a very good workout. And he told her that she would need it for the sports festival. Which she is thankful she actually listened to him. As she's panting and actually out of breath, coming in fourth place. Deku would have actually looked at her as she would have seen Deku, and Deku would have immediately just given a little nod, or close his eyes and give a bit of a smirk, which she would realize that he's actually somewhat proud of her. But as soon as that happens, Miss Mountain Lady or Midnight would immediately announce the cavalry battle, and Deku has 10 million points on his head. As soon as this happens, everyone's actually swarming Deku to be on his team, because they've seen his destructive power and do not want to go against that. Froppy wouldn't be on his team because she would just say that if she's on his team, she might actually die of dehydration, or just turn into a shriveled up prune. Deku would have understood this and say that it doesn't matter. He'll win anyway. Now, Deku would have actually had Kendo, Uraka, and Mei would have tried joining, but her gear would melt immediately. Now then, after this, Deku would have actually, as soon as the rounds match started, he would have stayed in this form, but he has his heat surrounding him, actually. Or no, he would actually buff up to this point, which would actually intimidate everyone even more, as he would just leap into the sky. Now, Uraka, Kendo, and yeah, just those two, let's say. They're actually surprised as they didn't expect Deku to go this high, as they would stop for a second and immediately start going back down. Todoroki would have actually blasted as much ice into the air as possible, as Deku would have immediately just stomped straight through it, going through it, actually landing onto the ground, taking another leap. Now, as soon as Deku was in the air, he would have gone back down again, and this is whenever All Might would have actually had to step in, yelling to Midoriya that he needs to stop, otherwise the stadium won't last. As Deku would have immediately understood, buffing down into somewhat around his base form, but using Sunshine at a good 20%, let's say just, not even 20, around 10% just jumping around the stadium. He's actually able to bounce off the walls at like the very top of it, so people are actually trying to attack him, but Todoroki's quirk is useless. Deku's attitude towards him is essentially too much for Bakugo, so he's barely able to even try and reach out with Black Whip, which is not the best quirk with his personality. Now then, they would have won, and let us begin the cavalry battle. Wow, cavalry battles. No, that's not what that is. I was going to say let us begin the festival battles, but that's not going to work. Anyways, that is where I'm going to be leaving off of, guys, but I have one question. For those of you who have stuck on around my channel for a very long time, there used to be a challenge I used to do. Now, for those of you who don't know, that's what that challenge is. Guess the soda, you can pick a what if. And this what if is going to be special. It will be my 600 subscriber what if. Because I'm already at 87. Let me set that down. Now, I am also going to be leaving a link into my Discord server for those of you who want to join. Because that previous one only works for the first 100 people to use it. So I'm going to be putting it down another one. In case more people want to join. Alright. Have an amazing night, guys, and I will be recording part 5, I believe, later.